So it has come to my attention that there is a Reddit thread on Mortgage Free Life, a strategy that I talk about all the time on my TikTok, on my YouTube channel, on my Instagram. And if you don't know me, my name is Jeff Hanna. I teach the Mortgage Free Life strategy as well as other financial planning based tax mitigation strategies. I kind of popularized this strategy on the internet. If you go to my TikTok, there's millions of views on TikTok that talk about the Mortgage Free Life strategy. And so about 9 months ago, although I'm just kind of figuring out about this, someone posted on Reddit about the strategy. So a lot of disinformation in this. I'm going to walk through it one by one, all the points, and give my take. But if you search Mortgage Free Life, this Reddit thread comes up. So if you want to find it, you can just Google it on the internet. So Valuable Location 37, which I believe is this guy's username, says, "Can someone explain the Mortgage Free Life method to me?" So I would like to preface this by saying I'm highly skeptical about this method, and he puts that in quotes. "I'll gladly eat my own quotation / words if this ends up not being a scam." Essentially, there's this guy out there. There's this guy on TikTok named Jeffrey Hanna advertising a method called Mortgage Free Life. First link when you Google it. Yes, that is our company website, in which you use their MFL HELOC interest-only loan, wrong, to pay off your mortgage and use it as a checking account. So all of your money goes into this account, and then it also somehow turns into tax-free retirement income. It's actually pretty accurate, kind of how it works. To me, it sounds like they're getting calculations by assuming no taxes and insurance is lumped into the mortgage, because he states that your payment won't go up by much and the property will be paid off a lot faster. Essentially, I'm quite confused about this whole thing, and it inexplicably to me seems like a life insurance sales pitch where there's literally no downside and it's free money. Can someone help me understand? The first video is pinned on Jeffrey Hanna TikTok page, explains the system. So the video is no longer pinned on my TikTok, just to start out, because I have these long form videos on YouTube, and I would rather have people watch the videos on YouTube instead of pinning that to the top of my TikTok page. But I have hundreds of videos on TikTok that are still available and that I still post. Actually, I post every single day on TikTok with payoff reports, things like that. So let's kind of walk through this. Is a HELOC an interest-only loan? Yes, but we're not making interest-only payments because we want to pay down principal. That's the first thing. Now, you pay off your mortgage with it. You can either, number one, pay off your entire mortgage, or number two, chunk away at your mortgage with what we call the mortgage-free loan, which is kind of like a HELOC. That's accurate. And it turns into tax-free retirement because it's a two-part strategy. If you want to watch my other videos where I talk about this, it explains exactly how it works. But first, what we do is we eliminate the debt with the HELOC, the mortgage-free loan, and then on the other hand, we're creating tax-free retirement with life insurance. And so that is accurate. There's no real confusion. There is downside to this, which the downside is if you do not meet the requirements, you're ultimately going to be put in a worse position. And no one's saying it's free money. I have never once said that this strategy gives you free money. All right. So let's look at what Deluxe XL says. It's just someone being bad at accounting. If a house is valued at $1 million and has a $400,000 mortgage, you get a HELOC with a $400,000 credit line, draw $400K to pay the mortgage. Now you have a $400,000 HELOC balance. HELOC has a higher interest rate than your mortgage. It is also secured against the home. This person is now worse off. Wrong, because this strategy is a cash flow strategy. Now, let's just assume this is the only way you can do it, and you replace your mortgage with the line of credit. Okay, what we're doing to avoid paying more interest, because the HELOC does have the higher interest rate, is we are driving all income into the line of credit. Our expenses come out. 100% of what's left over is paying down the principal. You cannot do that with a mortgage, because if you were, you would have $0 left over and you have bills. So that's the first thing. Just because a HELOC has a higher interest rate, that doesn't matter. This is a cash flow strategy. A HELOC calculates interest, or the mortgage-free loan. It calculates interest based off your average daily balance. So if you understand that, and I explain this in my other video, called How to Pay Off Your Mortgage in 5 to 10 Years, 2025 update, I explain exactly that it's calculating interest based off all the fluctuating daily balances. So the question, once you understand that, becomes how do I keep my balance as low as possible for as many days as possible so I pay as little interest as possible? Ideally, hundreds of thousands of dollars less than what I would pay in the mortgage. And how you do that is by essentially parking your paycheck inside of the mortgage-free loan. So this guy has no idea what he's talking about. Question about this. Is this particular part different? Is this particular part any different than a mortgage? If you default on a mortgage, you get foreclosed on. If you default on your HELOC, you also get foreclosed on. Is there something about the HELOC that would make this part worse? Just so it's clear, since this is the internet, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just curious about this particular thing. You run the same risk of getting foreclosed on regardless of what type of loan you use to finance your home. You're right. It's super dumb and focuses on the wrong metric, interest, rather than correct metric, wealth. You build more wealth with Mortgage-Free Life because we're combining a wealth building tool, one of the most powerful cash value life insurance that allows you to earn interest essentially kind of on your mortgage payment for the rest of your life, but that's not exactly how it works, but it's kind of like that, and save interest at the same time. You can't do that with anything else. You can't do that with a Roth. You can't do that with your 401k. You can't do that with your mortgage. It just doesn't work like that. To me, it sounds like they're getting calculations based on assuming no taxes and insurance is lumped into the mortgage payment. Nope, we lump in taxes and insurance. This person is obviously not following the videos correctly, because I always ask people to include taxes and insurance, because when we plug the number into the calculator, we want to include taxes and insurance, because he states that your payment won't go up by much and then the property would pay it off a lot faster. Your payment becomes 100% of whatever's left over at the end of the month. The technical payment is, sure, it's the interest only payment, but we're not trying to just pay the interest only. We're trying to pay down the principal as much as possible. So the true answer of what's my monthly payment, or will my payment go up every month? No, the payment is 100% of your income, and what pays down the principal is 100% of whatever's left over. We're completely changing how money flows through your account. Instead of having money just flow into your checking, expenses flow out, and that money sit there lazy, sitting in a checking or savings, that money is now going to work for you inside of the line of credit. They also fail to mention that HELOC rates may double or triple your current mortgage interest rate, and that HELOC rates are variable. I've talked about this so many times. Yeah, it's a higher interest rate. How do we make sense of that? Well, like I said before, because this is a cash flow strategy. If you do not have the cash flow, this strategy won't work for you, and you're ultimately going to want to use the 30-year mortgage. You have to have 25% minimum cash flow at the end of the month. And if you don't, I would not recommend this strategy. Again, I have other videos that explain all of the requirements that go into this. And I've never once said this is a one-size-fits-all solution. I don't know why people get so uptight about that. I've never said this is a one-size-fits-all solution. That is a big gripe that I have with financial gurus on the internet, is that they send out this blanket advice to everyone. And financial planning, as I said before, and I'll say again, is like getting fitted for golf clubs. Everyone's clubs are going to be a little bit different. All right. It is the other side of infinite banking concept, uses whole life insurance. This appears just to be the HELOC version. Dude is way too boring. I can't even get through the video. All right. So apparently I'm too boring. Sorry, man, but this is not infinite banking. I don't talk about infinite banking on my page because I don't love the concept of infinite banking for most people. I think people would be better off using an IUL, letting that money grow tax-free, and then withdraw tax-free instead of using infinite banking. Is infinite banking a legitimate concept that works for people? Absolutely. That's just not something that I promote. You heard about this on TikTok. That should tell you everything. Okay, so just because something's on TikTok means that the advice is not accurate. I don't understand that. I know there's a lot of dancing videos on TikTok, but it depends what your algorithm is going to look like. And my algorithm is all educational videos. So if you follow me on TikTok, I don't post dancing videos. First off, you have to qualify for a HELOC before a bank will give you a loan. In my experience, you can get a home equity line of credit for up to 80% of your equity in the house. This means that if you have a house, say, worth $400,000, if you have a house worth $400,000. You currently owe 300 on the mortgage, and you have 100,000 in equity. So in other words, scenario, you own a quarter of the house. You would only be able to get a HELOC for 80% of that, about 80%. It's right there in the name, line of credit. So this is like someone trying to like condescend other people and acts like they know so much more about finance. This person, I'm gonna be very nice because I don't want to be mean to anyone on the internet, but they have no idea what they're talking about. You can get a line of credit in the first position all day long, and if they don't know that, that doesn't mean that that's the truth. I have so many clients involved with the first lien mortgage free loan where they put a line of credit in the first position that they can get up to 90% of the value of their house, not 80%. So I like how they put like italics and all this stuff, and they try to make us feel stupid, but in reality, they have no idea what they're talking about. The entire premise of this video starts with getting a HELOC that you can use to pay off your entire mortgage. A bank is not going to give you a $300,000 HELOC if you only, no, wrong again, like I just talked about. The rest of the premise is pretty flawed too, because even if you could do that, you just took out a $400,000 loan to pay off $400,000 mortgage. Typically, mortgage interest rates are lower than HELOC rates. Okay, so this person is just all caught up on the interest rate. Again, I already went over this. This is a cash flow strategy. They also have no idea what they're talking about. He also assumes you have a bunch of money typically sitting in your checking account. So part of that premise is that the money sitting in your checking account is doing nothing. However, why not let the lower part of your balance pay less interest? But personally, I don't keep several thousand sitting in my checking account all the time. If you always have thousands of extra dollars sitting around, you can simply pay down your traditional mortgage with that money if your goal is to have a paid off house faster. So just because you have no money sitting inside of your checking account or little money sitting inside of your checking account doesn't mean that other people don't. When my clients come to me, a lot of them have a lot of cash on hand and they do save money. And that's why I always talk about mortgage-free life isn't something that is going to require you to change your financial habits. We're just giving you more ideas, better ideas. Let's see what this reply was to this. Answers have always been posted. Okay, if it's TikTok. It's been going around since the early 2000s. It's a pyramid scheme back then. Okay, you have no idea what a pyramid scheme is because this is not a pyramid scheme. I got kicked out of a sales party one time for pointing out to the presenter that their math ain't mathing. I have so many videos showing the actual math behind it. The math does math. It's a cash flow strategy. It's not magic. It's just math. It's not rocket science either. All you're doing is applying more money towards the loan to pay it down faster. The question is, what's the most efficient way to do that? Extra mortgage payments or the mortgage-free life strategy. And if you meet the requirements, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have more success with the mortgage-free life strategy. And somebody who's trying to sell you on voluntarily using a HELOC for any other reason besides improving / necessarily maintaining your primary residence, go watch some adorable baby animal videos. Okay, they have that mute point. They have no idea what they're talking about. My neighbor told me HELOC is the way, blah, blah, blah. I said, is it working for you? He said, yeah. Mortgage rate. Okay, so again, caught up on the interest rate. More or less, the thought of emptying your fund, fundamentally unreasonable, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and then here, like the final one is someone that actually agrees, where they say, I bet the people saying it's a scam because it's in TikTok can't explain why. There's nothing wrong with asking the question and being curious. From what I can tell, this is what he's describing. It links to an offset mortgage. My only knowledge of the subject is only that article. From what it seems, it's probably not the right choice for the majority of people. Agreed. But can be beneficial for some people. Agreed. It depends on how much you can grow your savings account, which takes discipline, and that has more than the offset, the higher interest on the HELOC and the annual fee, yada, yada, yada. It sounds to me that if you had a loan balance, 300K, 200K in savings, and a 7.5% interest rate HELOC, it will only be applied to 100K. This is cheaper than 300K mortgage at 5%. So, yeah, I mean, it's a bunch of people that, you know, are just kind of bitter and mad is what it seems like, because I've talked about this so many times. If you don't understand the strategy, all we're doing is chunking away or completely paying off your mortgage, depending on what mortgage-free loan you decide to use or what the numbers say that you should use. And then we're filtering your income, your paycheck, through a credit line instead of just in your checking and your expenses out. If you do not meet the requirements, then this isn't the strategy for you, which the requirements are 25% minimum net savings every month, 700 credit or above, and then 10 to 30% equity, depending on your state. Some states like Texas, you're going to need more equity. In some states like, I don't know, Indiana, for example, you only need about 10%. And then the type of mortgage-free loan you use as well is going to determine that. Those are just the minimum requirements. And then obviously the life insurance policy, if you haven't seen my other videos on life insurance policies, I don't shy away from that. Those tools are dollar for dollar will generate more income than 401k, Roth, etc. But again, we're not even competing with your 401k, your Roth, or anything like that. We're competing with the safe money in your portfolio. It's a bond alternative, things like that. And figuring out how to protect you from taxation, inflation, and all these things that none of these people in this article talk about. None of them talk about how the trust fund for Social Security is going to run out of money, and then payroll taxes are going in is only going to be able to fund 77% of the benefits, meaning your benefits are going to get cut by 23%, and all the taxable income that comes on top of that from 401ks, et cetera, is going to reduce that Social Security benefit on top of that through taxes, inflation, IRMA charges, things like that. None of these people are talking about how much interest is lost as a whole for your mortgage. So when you see things on the internet like this, I would go ahead and encourage you to do your own research, watch more videos, and think about, an anonymous account versus someone like me that puts their face out there and teaches these strategies. And again, I've never said that this strategy is the end all be all, that everyone should be using it. But I do think that when you meet the requirements, this is going to be such a powerful wealth building tool. So if you have any questions, you can leave a comment or you can shoot me an email. And then if you want a payoff report where we go over your numbers and see what Mortgage Free Life would look for you, use the link below in the description. I'm also going to have in the description, I will have part 1 and part 2 for the Mortgage Free Life strategy, so you can vet it yourself. But I appreciate you watching the video. If you're still here, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel and like the video. But as always, have a great day. Take care. Bye.